the whole Liam Kumar Day effect, not really happened.
Nigel couldn't make it.
Yeah.
I rang up Mendon all, he said he could make
Don't dig this hole. Phil, credit to the guy, always manages to do well what he has, but he is a shocking personality. You guys got a trophy? No.
It was pre-event.
No, my life from Rashad Mendon.
Right, you go. I'm a tag, Jack! I'm a fucking tag!
Oh baby, it's cold outside, but it's hotting up in the LOC, and there is no one better to bring the fire than the co-host Chris Leach himself. Hello and welcome to the LOC Report. How's it going, Chris?
Morning, yes, alright, thanks. It's a different kind of time we're going to have to do the pod today, but I don't think it's a great deal of difference. It's going to be, we've got a lot to review, a lot to look forward to.
We sure do.
So, yeah, looking forward to getting on with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, week 14, final week of the regular season, of course. We didn't have any nailed-on playoff teams going into the last week, which is usually, we usually have at least one or two come week 13. But we do have a few nailed on now, so we won't give any spoilers. We'll just go straight into the week 13 recaps. As Chris said, it's a busy episode, game day, last regular season game day of the season, so yeah, all the fun is still ahead of us. So here we go. Let's start off with last week's marquee matchup, which pitched the Detonators against Ixan. The Detonators took on Ixan last week. Ixan, with a win, would firmly punch their ticket to the playoffs. And with a loss, the Detonators keeps their playoff dreams pretty much in tow. And obviously, depending how Gridiron Gang got on in the other game as well, potentially could go ahead in the division once again. It was a close matchup between among the two of the highest scoring teams in the league this season. But the Detonators did just come out on top, 96 to 91 over Ixan. That drops Ixan to 2 losses on the trot now after going 10-1 to start the season. Meanwhile, Detonators moves to 8-5. Looking down the lineups, Justin Fields got 19 points, returning from his injury absence. CeeDee Lamb got 15. Isaiah Pacheco got 14. Daniel Carlson got 11. And the Cowboys D against Jeff Saturday's Colts got 21 points and reached that 96. On the other side of the board for Ben, again another solid day, but obviously just about outscored. Patrick Mahomes got 22, Tyler Lockett got 19, Christian McCaffrey got 21, and the Ravens D got 10 points, but obviously not quite enough to top Ollie there. The history of this matchup all time, which I did not update on here beforehand, excuse me, so I will do this as we speak. It is now a level series, 8-8 between the two of them. So, Chris, is Ben another okay week? This is the week we've come to expect from Ben, but Ollie, coming up big when it matters.
Yeah, I would say so. I do think that the result does flatter him slightly in the sense that defense score is so high. I mean, so high. Yeah. And yes, that's it. 21 points in any given week is what you want. But I do think that papers over cracks of their other skill positions there and the bench, which obviously doesn't really
just Gino.
Really flattering. So I don't think there's anything for Ben to worry about necessarily. Because as we've talked about all season, plugging in those 90 point weeks is this season a very, very, very high benchmark. Bearing in mind that scoring is largely down across the league.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that Ollie's got himself into a nice position where his entire team is week on week solid enough that it's not as if there are going to be certain players that are propping them up. But that defense score is freakishly high against a team that you should be kicking the living crap out of. So yes, it's a good result and come up clutch where it matters. But I don't think there's a great deal between these teams really.
No, I think you're right. Yeah, Ollie, as you say, he was kind of in a bit of a bye week and injury quandary last week. Only the quarterback on the bench, like you say, did take a good defense score to overcome it, but he has been holding on to the Cowboys. Obviously, they get a plum matchup, so you can only play what's in front of you, as they say. But yeah, definitely bailed him out. Isaiah Pacheco's a guy who's obviously come on, and that obviously paid dividends here as well. As you said, he had no other option on the bench, so needed those points this week. And like I said, on the other side for Ben's team, it's looking like it's been a bit more shakier ground than recently. But it's if you're a fan of Six the musical, you will know that the third. Do you know Six the musical, Chris? No. Well, the third of Henry is Henry the Eighth's wife, which was Jane Seymour, the one that actually bought Edward, she had a heart of stone apparently. She was unshakable. That's what Ixan is this season. He is the Jane Seymour of the LOC, so you can't rattle him basically. He just pumps out the 90-point weeks, as you say, depending whatever goes on with the team and wherever it happens. So obviously not a lot to see from on the bench, which has been the case for Ben pretty much all of the season, it's fair to say. But and even you could even point to Jimmy G's injury actually probably being a boost to Christian McCaffrey. It's obviously not going to help Deebo Samuel, but obviously Deebo Samuel kind of took a step back anyway with McCaffrey being in town. So yeah, as you say, Ben obviously I think depending, so this game alone didn't dictate whether Ben made the playoffs or not, obviously, but Ollie gets to 8 wins there as well. So we'll go on to the next game then, which did feature another one of the playoff teams. Potential playoff team, in Bucking the Trend, featuring a last chance saloon at the playoffs with UR Gold. Bucking the Trend took on UR Gold here, both keeping their playoff hopes alive, though one had a toe in the playoffs, shall we say, as opposed to UR Gold, who was just in the changing rooms getting ready to go in the pool. Bucking the Trend was coming off a 4-game win streak entering this one. UR Gold off a 2-game lose streak, both streaks extended. As an impressive day, once again by Bucking the Trend, 123 to 83 over UR Gold. Looking down the lineups, so Tua got 18 points, Keenan got 15, Amon-Ra St. Brown, he's been such a great player for Bucking the Trend this year, 24 points, Saquon Barkley 14, Josh Jacobs 19, Christian Watson 21, so a really impressive day there for all of the skill positions in the quarterback. En route to that 1-2-3. On the other side of the board for UR Gold, 83 points, about par for the course for them. It wasn't the QB that let them down on this day though. Jared Goff got them 26 points, so they got a streamer right, which they have done more recently rather than not. But it was the rest of the team that obviously let them down. Only Dalvin Cook with 14 points and Robbie Gold with 18 over 10 points there. Jamal Williams was pretty damn close with 9.5 too, but obviously nowhere near sniffing distance with Bucking the Trend. This loss eliminates UR Gold from playoff contention because their points are so inferior, and it almost, depending what happens elsewhere, it almost locks up the wildcard for Bucking the Trend. So the history of this matchup all time, this was one that I frantically just updated. Bucking the Trend is now 3-1 all time against UR Gold. And Mike marches on, Chris. He's probably the contender for the team potentially bringing the most momentum into the playoffs, wouldn't you say?
I would say so, yes. I mean, we saw a bit of a mid-season drop-off, but they popped all the right times now, and having Keenan Allen back is obviously a massive boost to them. That sort of fifth skill position, as it were, has been well and truly filled. So I think we're going to see, this kind of team go forward throughout the playoff run. But yeah, I mean, that is a very formidable points total, I think, and yeah, everyone's contributed. Everybody's in double digits. Everybody's in the kind of the focal point of their offense, perhaps at this point of the season. Yeah. Christian Watson had a freakish day in the sense that he went for a massive TD, but at the same time, I think he looks like the most able guy to go in that offense at the moment. So, provided that Jacobs can continue progressing, Tua is obviously going to have better days than against San Francisco, but even then, 17 points is none too bad. And you look at the playoff run for him, the Chargers, Buffalo, Green Bay at home. It's not entirely easy for him. But that offense is definitely at new heights this season. Plus a bit of some Brown, provided that they can go, and I think they will do. They're going to play in the soft Minnesota D this week, then the Jets, then Carolina, and Chicago at home on the last day. So, I really think that here it's going to be, it's definitely one to look at here. I think if I was in his position, I'd be feeling very, very smug. Whilst UR Gold, unfortunately just haven't hit the heights this year. I think a bit of a piecemeal team anyway. But yeah, aside from Jamal Williams, who has had a freakish year with touchdowns,
Absolutely. So he's the NFL touchdown leader at the moment. So, and that was just add on a whim by Ollie. I think I picked him up after week 1 because he just got those rando touchdown or twos. But obviously Swift was still running the show, and then Ollie picked him up on a whim just because obviously Jamal Williams had the points. Then Swift gets injured, and then Jamal Williams just becomes this absolute beast of a touchdown monster.
Yeah,
and he's continued it because he's the goal line back, really.
Exactly. So with Jones and Cook as well, I think that those 3 guys have been fantastic. But unfortunately, outside that, and particularly at quarterback, they just haven't been stable this year. So that's it. 4-9 is unflattering, especially in that division. But that is unfortunately what you get when you have to carry some teams. Carry some guys in the team.
Completely, absolutely. I think a merciful end for Oligari because he had the faintest hopes of playoffs, as we say. Obviously, losing that key matchup with Pat made life very difficult playoff-wise, but now it is firmly put to bed. So he's got a fun Week 14 matchup to look forward to finish off the season, at least, but as you say, depending on what happens elsewhere, bucking the trend, potentially marching on. So we'll move on to the next game then and see what happened there, which was not really a playoff matchup for these 2 teams, but obviously, when you've had a bit of a tougher season, it's nice to have these fun games just near the end of the year. So we'll see what happened between Grizz of War and Forge Flyers. Grizz of War and Forge Flyers took each other on here, both having a disappointing season, some more than the others. Forge Flyers still a very respectable 6-6 entering this one. They were carrying a 4-game losing streak though against Grizz of War, who were also coming off of a loss of their own at 2-10. But Grizz of War did win this one, so having a little bit of pride at the end of the season to get the 3 wins, 83-61, putting Chris's 500 target in perilous danger. Now that he falls to 6-7. We'll take a look down the lineups then. So for Grizz of War, Dak Prescott got 23 points. He did get the quarterback streamer right this week between him and Kirk Cousins. DK Metcalf got 19. David Montgomery got 13. But that was it in terms of the over 10-point players. Obviously nothing too substantial there. On the other side of the board for Chris, Trevor Lawrence got 18. Left the game injured but did come back. But obviously still didn't have a brilliant day. Drake London got 10 points. So a good stream there. But no other players over 10 points there as well, unfortunately. A very quiet day for Jalen Waddle as well, who only got 1 point on the day. So Ross takes this one. The history of this matchup all time. Let's see here. Where is the head-to-head? Here we go. The head-to-head between these 2 is now Forge Flyers are 5-7, I think. 7-5 against Ross's team. Sorry, 7-5. Disappointing day for you, Chris. Obviously, you were struggling quite a bit with bye weeks and obviously injuries of your own as well. So
absolutely. Bye weeks injury didn't help at all, and it's big players not turning up. That's it. There's some okay yardage totals in there, but again, lack of touchdowns, few injuries in the game itself.
Mm-hmm.
Poor game scripts. There's a lot of options there, but getting 60 points is not a great total, I'll give you. You have to look at what's happened from week 8 onwards, and the usage of Chubb and Kamara particularly has fallen away massively since then.
I don't understand what is going on there. I mean, Hunt was always kind of the guy that when Chubb's healthy, he needs a touchdown to have a good day. He'll chip in with some yardage, but I don't understand what they are doing down there in Cleveland now. I obviously you get Deshaun Watson coming back in this game, and you think that would actually be helpful for Chubb because Houston suck against the run and they love to run, but they were just terrible. Certainly last week.
Exactly, that's right, and that's kind of how it's been over the last little while. Play Trevor Lawrence gets injured in the game. Waddle gets injured in the game. He's carrying something, it just hasn't hit the heights of 6 or 7 weeks. So it's not a great period of time for me. But there's still 1 game left. As for Ross, got the job done. Reasonably solid. Had some standout performers, and that's what got him across the line in Montgomery, Metcalf, and Prescott. But aside from that, that really is the difference between the 2 teams. As disappointing as that is at the moment.
Yep, no, absolutely. And like you say, when it's a bit low scoring and both teams are struggling, there's not too much you can read into it. Obviously, playoff wise, you guys are just playing for fun at this point as well.
Indeed.
So that's all you can take from it. at this point in the season. We'll go on to the next one then, which did feature, again, a couple of playoff hopefuls, as both of these teams, again, still alive in the playoffs one way or another. So let's take a look. The Dream Team took on Tom's Tyrants here as well in Week 13. The Dream Team could not catch up in the wildcard or in the division, but if they kept scoring points, it gives them an outside chance of the points forward wildcard. Meanwhile, Tom's Tyrants, their route to the playoffs, again, lies through the winning of the division. We have not got to Pat's game yet. The result of that would dictate whether he had a chance or not, if he won or not, but he did not win here, so his season is over, unfortunately, as the Dream Team does pile up the points, which is what they needed to do, whilst carrying a 3-game win streak now, 111 to 66. Looking down the lineups, Joe Burrow, he was firing again, he got 34 points in a big win for Cincy over KC. Stephon Diggs got 15, Jamar Chase, his return massive for the Dream Team, he got 10 points. Tony Pollard continuing to have those blow-up games, 23 points despite sharing the backfield with Zeke. Zonovan Knight as well, what a stream. I said on the podcast last week, there are a few guys out there that he should be definitely playing over Paris Campbell. He was one of them. So good job by the Dream Team there, getting the 12 points from Bam Knight, and then the Bills D got 10 as well. On the other side of the board for Tom's Tyrants, a disappointing way for their season to effectively be over, but obviously not completely out of character with how they have been this year. Tom Brady got 21 points, Jonathan Taylor got 10, Seahawks D got 10, but no other players there. Miles Sanders coming very close with 9.8. Over 10 points. So, yeah, Tom's Tyrants falls to 3-10. Viv goes to 6-7, but it's all about the points for him and the history of this matchup all time. Now that it's all updated, I can bring that back over. The history of this matchup all time between these two. The Dream Team are now 6-11 all time against Tom's Tyrants. The Dream Team recapturing their form at the exact right time, aren't they, Chris?
Total.
He did not choke on this particular occasion, is what you were trying to convey.
No, he did not, and you're right. Everything's coming back for him at just the right time. Now, we knew that this team would be a bit lopsided in the sense that, yeah, it's not one of those kind of teams that everyone's going to contribute. But in this week, I said Burrow's come back to fine form in a game that we said was going to be full of offense. Then you've got, say, Diggs, who's been outstanding for him this season as a kind of baseline. Chase's baseline yardage is very good, and Tony Pollard, who when he's on, and when he's on, he's scoring a massive amount of points. Yeah. So yeah, there's absolutely no point dropping him. As you say, Bam, like, good stream. There wasn't anything else on the bench of any sort of note. So and a decent score, not amazing from the kicker in D, but enough. So yeah, I think.
Excuse me, there's no one else on the bench. He has the ultimate fantasy troll that is Taysom Hill. No, I'm kidding. Of course he wouldn't. I mean, he might. He would have been in hindsight over Gus Edwards, but against that tough Denver D. But no, I think we can forgive Viv not streaming Taysom Hill.
Weird game, but yeah, I mean, Taysom Hill is I guess he sort of embodies Viv's team this year. So just a little bit strange. But yeah, scores points on weeks that you wouldn't necessarily expect, and yeah, it's going to come good. Whilst for Tom, I think he's in the same kind of boat as I am, in the sense that yeah, whatever team you seem to put out doesn't really work out for you, and these guys have shown that they can put it out there, but just not consistent enough. And I feel his pain. I said the old Brady Evans stack, as always, is the thing that keeps you going. Brady's done well. It was nothing for Evans as we.
He's had a very, very quiet month at about. I think I heard on a podcast and bring up the scores here. We'll cover that. I don't think he scored a touchdown since October or something ridiculous. No, he has not. Yeah, week 4 was the last time Mike Evans scored a touchdown. And for a guy that historically has made his fantasy living really off of scoring touchdowns, he's not one of these massive yardage guys. Though he's actually, you can see in some games, he's certainly boosted his value that way. But yeah. And a lot of those definitely needs a touchdown to make it a decent day, and that has been sorely lacking for him this year.
Indeed. And these percentage plays just haven't quite paid off, and yeah, it's disappointing when that happens. And George Pickens down there against Atlanta, you'd expect way more than that from him, with the way that he's been in that offense this year. So yeah, just unfortunate again for Tom. As the playoff dream is over, or it is over. Spoiler. I put too far on the points behind, and he obviously needed to win to be able to mathematically catch up Pat, so there's no spoilers there regardless of the other results. Indeed. So yes, and again, not a lot else to write about on the bench either. I think it would have only been 3 points to the good. So yeah, unfortunate, but yeah, better luck next year.
No, absolutely. You could tell Tom's one foot was already out the door by the lack of the power rankings, despite being mathematically alive as well. So maybe we'll get a late season flurry of power rankings articles now that he's officially eliminated, and just turn his focus to that. I've not been delivering the results of the pick'ems either, so just to circle back and do all those before we go on to our next game. So in the Detonator, there we go, got there eventually, versus Ixalan game, we both picked the Detonator, so we absolutely smashed that one, Chris. You are gold against Bucking the Trend. Again, we both went Bucking the Trend, so absolutely smashed that one. The Dream Team against Tom's Tyrants, which was the rematch of the Corona Bowl 2014. We both picked the Dream Team, so we are 3 for 3 there so far. And then just skipping over the one that I missed, which was Ross's team against your team, Chris. We both picked your team. Oh. But hey, it's okay.
Well,
you have it's a weird day. It's a weird game. Those ones are hard to call. That's the equivalent between calling, I don't know, Houston versus Indianapolis. Who the hell knows who's going to win? You know what I mean? Like, although your team is better, I would contend than either of those real teams. We'll go on to the next game then and see how we picked with this one as well. Gridiron Gang took on Napolitans here. Gridiron Gang with a win, and the Detonators win could not lock up the division definitively this week, but they could certainly go towards punching their ticket to the playoffs. Meanwhile, Napolitans, they had no route to the wild card or the division, so again, they just needed to score points to give them an outside chance entering week 14. Score points they did. They were the highest scorer. Yes, they had the highest score of the week, and it featured two of the highest scoring teams. This was the highest scoring game of the week, where Napolitans beat off Gridiron Gang 123 to 111 points. So Napolitans moving to 6 and 7, and Gridiron Gang falling back to 8 and 5. Looking down the lineups for Napolitans, Jalen Hurts had a great day with 39 points. Tyreek Hill got 21 points. Christian Kirk, he got 10. Jason Myers got 10, and the Broncos D as well, with the injured Lamar Jackson generating a cool 17 points. On the other side of the board for Gridiron Gang, Josh Allen couldn't match Jalen Hurts. He only got 21 points in the Thursday night game against New England. Terry McLaurin, though, he had a good day, 17 points, as did Samaje Perine with 16. Brian Robinson got 10. And the Browns D, my word, 2 good weeks streaming for me, 34 points. Which is one of the, I think, top 10 highest scoring defensive points in the last 20 years or something ridiculous like that. So, but it was obviously the points left on the board, so to speak, with Kenneth Walker going down injured that really hurt Gridiron Gang in this one. May have contributed to the loss, but we'll never know. But the history of this matchup all time, Napolitans are now 2-1 against Gridiron Gang. So, Napolitans, again, staying alive for another week, getting the points in just when it matters. Will it matter, Chris, potentially?
I think you may. It's certainly a disruptor. It may not matter for them necessarily. It may matter for others. I all year he's been absolutely blasted by teams, as Dave, and now he's come up trumps in a game that was formidable. I mean, you look at your points for, it's very, very good. Obviously, that 34 points does somewhat paper over some cracks in the team, but
I completely agree. And I was messaging Dave earlier in the week, and anybody else that I would have lost like this too, I would have been pretty raging. I mean, I was pretty pissed off anyway to be losing with that score, because I would have beaten most other teams in the league. Doesn't really matter in terms of play. It obviously could have an implication in seeding, but as you say, Dave has been conceding points left, right, and centre all season long, losing these exact kind of games. So if there's anyone that I was like, you know what, I can't complain, it's Dave.
Absolutely. Saying, that Jalen Hurts, Tyreek Hill stack at the top. Well, it's stack. So it's been there all year for him. It's been brilliant. So that's definitely been the bedrock of his team. And then, there are other key contributors. He was high in T. Higgins. T. Higgins has done well for him this year, I would say. It's solid, not spectacular, but solid enough. Christian Kirk, we've spoken about on this before, absolutely fantastic. Stevenson will have better days against, worse defenses, but, by and large, has been great for him all year. Najee Harris, you may as well swap Hill and Harris around and just pretend that he's Hill's first round pick, because Harris hasn't quite lived up to it this year in that stifled offense. But he's he put up nearly 10 points a game. It's not too bad. Plus decent kicker and D points. So 122 does not flatter this team at all, I don't think. But again, it's been very, very unlucky with how some of the cards have been dealt in terms of results this year.
Yeah.
Yes. As for yours, Josh Allen's gone for 20. It's all right. Kelsey's been stifled. McLaurin and P. Ryan, fair play. Terry McLaurin has risen from the dead in the second half of the season.
Thank you, Captain Heineke.
Well,
Chief Tank Commander.
Indeed. The issue here is, though, I think, obviously outside of that freakish D score, is that Kenneth Walker went down. I know he won't play this week, but yeah, if that's long term, then that is a big hole. Bearing in mind he's a big contributor to your team, but there are guys on the bench that you can rely on. I think, especially if Fournette hasn't really been playing for Tampa, so you're going to see a lot more of Rashad White maybe. And the change of quarterback for Cleveland only helps other people's people's Jones there as well. So it's a big hole to fill. But if it's a one week thing, it's not such the worst thing in week 14.
Yeah, no, absolutely, and as you say, so. I mean, I can still win the division, obviously. If I don't win the division at the moment, I'm well positioned, like you say, for the points forward wild card, which we'll see once we finish up recapping the games here. And yeah, you're completely right. So I obviously said in the pod last week, I made the waiver claim on the Browns. Nobody else claimed them. I got them for $0. Wasn't quite sure what a lot of people were doing. They certainly didn't have a settled defense. Can't obviously sit here and say I was expecting that, because that was an insanely good game, and as you are completely right in saying, it did paper over some cracks. But as you've also kind of touched on with my team, it was two guys that normally are the points generators of my team in Travis Kelce and Kenneth Walker. Kelce just had a down day, since he seemed to have the blueprint to shut him down, as whenever they seem to play each other, he has a quieter game. And as you say, Kenneth Walker, he had a 30-yard rush right off the bat. And then, that's when he did his ankle. So I would have been fairly confident in saying that I think if he stays healthy, I win this game, even with Kelsey's low score. It's just one of those things, isn't it? But as I say, it wouldn't have sealed anything for me playoff-wise anyway. So no harm lost there. But yeah, Napolitan's great day. That like you say, they're hitting their stride at the right time. They've had a bit of a weird season because Hurts hasn't always been firing. You mentioned about Najee Harris, obviously, certainly to begin the season wasn't living up to that first overall pick. But no, they're certainly coming good. And again, when we were chatting, I think that the NFL Fantasy site predicted him for 0 wins, if we were remembering correctly, because they absolutely hated his team. I don't know what Marcus Grant at NFL Fantasy is smoking, because this team was never a 0-win team, and look where they are now. Anyway, so Napolitan stays alive for another week. You picked my team in this one, Chris, but I did the old switcheroo, which may have given me the bad karma and caused Kenneth Walker's injury, because I locked Napolitans there. But at least I got the lock right, so we'll go on to the last game of the week.
That's true.
Yeah. Pakistan took on Bare Necessities here. Two teams very much firmly in the playoff race. So with the win and the losses for Tom's Tyrants and You Are Gold, Pakistan would firmly seal up the division. Meanwhile, for Bare Necessities, they needed a win to stay up in the wildcard race and the division, actually, with Iksan and bucking the trend, both getting to the 10 wins point. But obviously, they still had to have a chance to the points forward wildcard as well, which will now be their only method of playoffs if they get there, because Pakistan coming up big when it matters, punching their ticket to the playoffs to the tune of 120 points to 93. And if you're keeping count, that's a 3-game win streak now for Pakistan, which does represent half the wins of the season. He's now sitting at 6-7, dropping Bare Necessities to 8-5. Looking down the lineup, so Pakistan didn't need Justin Herbert to put up that big day, because he only got 18 points, which is fine when you've got Devontae Adams going for 30, Justin Jefferson going for 12, Ezekiel Elliott going for 15, Devontae Smith going for 16, and Younghoe Koo going for 14 points himself. So real impressive day there for Pakistan. On the other side of the board for Bare Necessities, again, it's kind of a similar case to Gridiron Gang, a case of what could have been if Lamar Jackson stayed healthy. He only got 1 point before exiting with his knee injury in this one. AJ Brown did his best efforts to kind of mitigate that with 24 points. Devin Singletary got 11, Damian Pierce got 10, Matt Gay got 14, and the Niners D got 19. So all in all, 93 points on a day where your quarterback gets only 1 is a pretty good outing. The history of this matchup all time, Benesestes is now 5-6 against Pakistan, so Pat takes the lead in the series. And talk about teams carrying momentum into the playoffs. Pakistan, despite how bad they were for effectively 2 months, it obviously doesn't matter how you start, it's how you finish. And yeah, they could actually be a team to watch out for in the playoffs here, Chris.
Absolutely, they've been the beneficiary of a weak division, but I think that their team, we've sort of touched on it throughout the year. Yes, their team has been on paper really good.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's turned up at absolutely the right time, and for a nearly 30-point rip for Devontae Adams in this week to happen now, where he really needed that push against quite a consistent, solid team in Benesestes, then that's just the right time. But there's a lot to like. That receiving core. In Adams and Jefferson, arguably the best. That's it. When you add in little sneaky Garrett Wilson down there, that's it, on the bench, who throughout the time he's been with Mike White, and he's got
he's been absolute fire. Yeah.
Very, very soft matchups in Detroit and Jacksonville as well. It's we'll see him go forward. So those three could be fire. But then he's gone for Devontae Smith this week. Excellent choice. Zeke nice and solid. Say Patson will have better days, and say the leg of Young Wei Koo and the Commander doing well. So 120-point complete performance, very, very good for Pat. That's it. As for Dave, that's it. The loss of Lamar Jackson early was obviously not helpful. I'm not sure that would have made a great deal of difference otherwise, to be quite honest. But that's it. In that Denver D, as you say, is stout. But yeah, AJ Brown, star of this team, absolutely brilliant. And saying there are other components in it. Eckler, as we've seen absolutely ripped teams. Damian Pierce had a great rookie season. Singletary's been strangely effective, through the last few games. So there's, again, not to sleep on him, but I don't know. It's always you can't quite get it across the line. I don't know what it is about that team.
No, I think it's weird because my dad's team obviously started the year really hot. Was one of the teams that were like, they were shooting for the playoffs, and then, like you say, it's just been little things here and there that have just kind of capped the upside. And like you say, they've been losing some closer games, so they still have okay scores, but it's not quite the heights they had earlier in the season. I mean, if we open up the league thing, I think that'll pretty much confirm that. It's still with a chance of the playoffs, but obviously only by way of the points forward, which is quite hotly contested at the moment. So it's just kind of where Pat's kind of bringing the momentum in. It's kind of slipped away from my dad's team yet. You can see there. So has only topped 100 points once since week 5. Through weeks 1 to week 5, you can see rattled off 4 over 100-point games to start the season there. They've definitely cooled off notably, haven't they? Since then, for, as you say, for one reason or another.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway, that's the last game there. We both picked Pat to win this one as well. So I think if you're keeping count, that means I'm 5-1 on the week, and you are 4-2, with the only difference being the matchup in my game. So that brings me to 61 and 41 on the all-time pick'em. Chris, you are now 49 and 28. You're not far off doubling your losses at having a .667 record there. Lock-wise, I obviously got my lock moving me to 10 and 8. I meant to message you, Chris, because I forgot after the pod as well. You did not have a lock last week, so no change in your 9 and 4 lock record there either, but that's okay. We'll go to the in the news section now. Injury-wise, so we mentioned a few of those as we went along. You already talked about Kenneth Walker and his ankle, Chris. That's obviously quite big for my team, given, as you say, how much of a key component he has been. But it's looking like it should at least be a short-term injury. It's a really bizarre one, though. It's like not a sprain or anything. It's like like a strain. It's they called it a jammed ankle, which. Have you read about the injury much, Chris? Probably not. No. So basically, it's like, you know when you like stub your finger or something but it goes in instead of like going out or side to side. It basically pushed his foot up into the joint. So that's what happens when you jam it. So it's a really strange one, but thought to be a short-term one. Obviously, he's listed as questionable for this week, but didn't practice all week, so likely not going to play. So but shouldn't be too long term. One that is long term and coming at the worst timing. So obviously we talked about Lamar Jackson, his knee injury. He is likely done for the rest of the the rest of the fantasy season, perhaps the rest of the NFL regular season as well. My dad also had Jimmy Garoppolo, which again the $1 million man in more ways than one, because he gets paid in the NFL as much as he gets paid in the LOC. But he obviously got the dreaded Liz Frank injury. So that's 2 quarterbacks down for my dad at the same time. And obviously with the Jimmy G injury, that means Brock Purdy is now the starting quarterback for the Niners. So that has more repercussions, obviously, for their offense as well. What do you make of those injuries, Chris?
Yeah, it's a big one, especially for the 49ers. I think that there are certain skill positions that are obviously going to be badly affected by it, but maybe as a functional offense, it could be it could spell the end of certain players' upsides, which we'll come to a bit later on. So yes, it's not a great time for such an injury.
No, definitely not. Brock Purdy, to his credit, looked fairly good actually coming in relief, and if you've been reading some of the things around the Niners team this week, they're actually talking quite glowingly about him, but he was the Mr. Irrelevant, I think, in this year's draft, if I remember correctly. So not often those guys come in and exceed expectations, and even if they do, that's not always enough, because obviously the expectations are so low. So as you say, we'll see the repercussions of that as we go through. And then the only one I picked out, Cortland Sutton, for you, Chris, hamstring injury. That could well be his season done. You've obviously since cut him as well, so.
Yeah, long overdue.
Yeah. Well, he's kind of been the Mike Evans, I guess. He's been chipping in a bit of yardage here and there. Obviously, hasn't been getting the touchdowns like obviously with that completely garbage Denver offense. So that's at least, as you say, you're having some fun in week 14, which we'll see in a second as well. Transactions wise, I only picked out one here because it just had a reasonable amount of money spent. There wasn't too much interesting on the waiver this week. Pat Stan added James Cook for George Kittle, so obviously George Kittle being dropped as a direct result of that Jimmy G injury. Pat also spent $22 in order to secure James Cook. I will just check while you give the analysis on this one, Chris, what the bidding was on this one. But what do you make of this for Pat's team?
Well, you got budget to use, and it's time. It's time. It's now or never, isn't it, for Pat? So he's got a playoff run to look forward to now. So
yes.
Going into that, I think that you have to tool up, and that's it. You got to make sure you want guys that you want. Then you've got to spend the money this time, because there aren't too many people who've got lots and lots of money left. So if this is if Pat's gonna be one and done in there, then so be it. So
yeah.
So,
yeah, certainly among the playoff teams, only Pat Stan actually has a significant amount of money left, $96. All of the other playoff teams, I mean, based on the current seeding, the most any of them would have left would be $39. So like you say, $22 when you've got 96 and that much more over everyone else. So it's a drop in the ocean. Just cleaning up who else claims. So but I noticed bid on him as well for $9, and obviously I bid but with $0 as I have no money left. So that's a good, like you say, Chris, good money well spent if it could potentially be a guy down the stretch that Pat could use. Yep. He's got a bye as well, and let's not forget being a division winner, so even better. In terms of, so no standing stats and milestone of any note this week, so we'll just skip over that. If the power rankings do come out, check them out when they land. We'll go to debate corner now, so obviously in order to do that, we'll get John Burke out. He's taking a break from putting his Christmas parties on his expenses, so John, could you please usher us into debate corner?
Order.
Thank you, John. Speaking of Pat Stan, actually, the debate corner is staying quite close to home here. So, last season, the Napolitans made the playoffs with a 7-7 record, winning the Portsmouth division, I believe. This year, Pat Stan has won the division already, despite having a 6-7 record. So obviously, if he wins this week, he can match that 7-7. But if he does not win, this would be the first season that we've seen a losing record division winner. So the debate corner for this week is: will we ever see a 7-7 or 6-8 division winner again? Historically, in the LOC, I think the absolute minimum typically you need is an 8-6 record. Certainly to win the division, that's absolutely the floor. You could maybe sneak into the wild card with a 7-second record, but even then, I don't think we've seen that. But yeah, this is 2 years in a row now where we've seen a team get into the playoffs by way of not having a winning record. So do you think that will ever happen again, Chris?
I think that with the points forward sort of thing, I think it could. There's always a way of getting in, especially if you get.
Would we have a division winner though with a negative?
A division winner,
yeah.
Yes, as I said, with a division winner, you have to have a historically bad division, like we have had here. I'm not going to completely rule that out, but it's very rare. So I don't think when that kind of happens, it's very rare for all of them to sort of be condensed for such a long period of time.
Yeah.
Into the mire. So no, I would probably say I'm not going to completely rule it out because the possibility is still there. But yeah, I think that it's entirely possible that could be the case. It'll be completely freakish to see it again.
Yeah. No, I have to agree with you. I think we're going to be playing for a long, long time. So yes, it's probably going to happen again just by way of chance. I think it's just been very fluky that it's happened 2 years in a row here. And it's not been, I suppose, terribly far off before. We have seen 8-6 division winners before also. So that's really only a hair above 500. So it is probably quite likely. But as you say, Chris, hopefully we won't see that. And at least this year and last year, to be fair, Pat and Dave's team last year, they are firmly worthy of the playoffs. You can't sit there and say that they don't deserve to be there or have a chance at the title. So that, at least that's not a case of someone being there who fundamentally does not deserve to be. So that's the end of the news section. So we will go to the Week 14 previews, obviously the final week of the regular season. So on the docket this week, we go back into the divisions one last time. Sorry, I did skip over milestone standings. I should have done the standings. So before we do that, I will do that. So Southampton division, Ixan and bucking the trend have clinched playoff spots with a 10-3 record. There's obviously to be decided who will win the division or not. Ixan currently leading up slightly on points, but they do play each other as we're seeing week 14. So one of these will win the division, the other will get the wild card. The traditional wild card, that is. Bare Necessities, they're on 8-5. So their only hope is the points forward wildcard. We'll come back to that in a bit. And then Napolitan's rounding out at 6-7. In the Portsmouth division, again, it's a tied lead at 8-5 between Gridiron Gang and Detonators. Gridiron Gang leading by 36 points at the moment. Yep. So again, that one's still to be determined which of these teams will win the division. And then it's not a guarantee which one would get the points forward wildcard. But we'll see in a second that it's probably quite likely one of them does. The Dream Team and Fudgeflies, they're on 6-7 also. Then we've got the Winchester division. Patterstown has clinched the playoffs now by winning that division 6-7, as UR Gold is 4-9, and then Grizz, War and Tom's Tyrants rounding out at 3-10. Looking at the overall then, so 3 playoff teams nailed on. So the only remaining thing to decide is the Portsmouth division winner, which is between Gridiron Gang and Detonators, and then the points forward wildcard. My team is on 1,369 points at the moment. That is the league high. Detonators is the second with 1,333. And then among the non-playoff seeded teams already, in terms of points forward, I think the next highest is Bare Necessities at 1,275. Dream Team at 1,248, Napolitan's at 1,223 there. Nobody else is really close enough to chase up in that. So that basically would mean if I don't win the division, Bare Necessities would be the next closest, and they're about 95 points behind. So that would be quite the wild swing. So those teams will be hoping that I win the division, and then Ollie perhaps has a bad week because he is a bit closer, but still about 60 points ahead of the next closest as well. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens there. In terms of breakdown, Gridiron Gang still top, obviously 8-3 last week. All the usual suspects, not much has really changed there. So now we will go to the Week 14 previews. Chris, we have Gridiron Gang against Forge Flyers, which is the podcast bowl, of course. Napolitan's against Bare Necessities, which is the Dave Bowl. Bucking the Trend versus Ixan, which is obviously going to be the hotly contested game for the Southampton division title. Then we have the Dream Team against Detonators, which may be a Corona Bowl rematch. I can't quite remember. Thomas Torrance against Your Goal, which is the Winchester Bowl, and Patterstown versus Grizzle War, which is the Goose Bowl. So lots of interesting games this week, but it's quite clear, probably, Chris, where we're going for the marquee matchup.
Yeah, there is only one place to go, and that is Bucking the Trend versus Ixan.
Sure. So here we go then for the marquee matchup of Week 14, the final one of the regular season. It's Bucking the Trend against Ixan. Bucking the trend, take on Ixan to duke it out for the league's number 1 seed and the punching the ticket to the division winner by way of the playoffs. The winner would obviously get the bye as well, so a lot to play for these two teams. Bucking the trend carrying a 5-game win streak, Ixan carrying a 2-game losing streak. So let's take a look at the lineup. So for bucking the trend, I believe DeAndre Swift has come in for Christian Watson, and then I think the rest of the lineup is unchanged. So they're going with 30 personnel this week, 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers. On the other side of the board for Ixan, let's see lineup-wise here. I think James Conner comes into the lineup back from bye, dropping Antonio Gibson to the bench, who goes on to bye. So they are going with the 20 personnel this week, 2 running backs and 3 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time. Let's see where Ixan on here. Ixan are... There they are. They are 4-1 all time against bucking the trend. So, Chris, will history hold true here? Will bucking the trend be able to overcome the matchup, or will Ixan do what they've done a lot this season and get to win? I'm just going to be right back while you preview this one as well. So take it away, Chris.
It's certainly a good start for Mike, and so you look there with 17 points from Josh Jacobs already, and that is absolutely brilliant for him. I mean, he's been out of this world, much better than we expected to see from him this season. So I think if he can get him, he's obviously in the offense already. But similarly, Swift is there. Barkley's there with a bit of a question mark over him playing Philly, but it's a big game for them. If Barkley doesn't play, then I think Jeff Wilson comes in and does an okay job. But Barkley's been one of the standout performers for Mike all year. The one game that I'm interested in though is this Detroit game, because Minnesota haven't been that brilliant on defense, and Detroit playing at home, which they've been significantly better there this year, especially St. Brown over the last couple of weeks. He's shown early season form, so I think that would be that'd be a real boost to him. So Keenan Allen and Tua are in the same game as well. Keenan Allen, we know how good he is when he's fit and ready to go. It's going to be a big boost for the Chargers, but Tua playing all year against that ropey Chargers D, really interesting matchup, I think. So yeah, that's it. There's a lot to like on that team. Whilst with Ben, that's it. I think matchups and circumstance are kind of working against him this week. So we see Mahomes is playing Denver, and we've seen that Denver has stifled a lot of teams this year. So they've seen some really poor scores from any team playing Denver this year, especially in Denver, especially this time of the year. So that's got a bit of a banana skin all over it. Lockie's been better playing Carolina at home, and I think that should show a good score there. But then we get to the bit that I'm a little bit concerned on. So we see Amari Cooper down there. He's banged up at playing against Cincinnati in Cincinnati this week. Deshaun Watson didn't look amazing last week.
He did not.
Extremely rusty. So yeah, whatever we see from him depends on whether or not he can shake that rust off. James Conner is in a completely broken offense playing New England, but I think that then again, when that offense is broken, they go through him. We've seen some real good double-digit scores in the last week, but here's where I'm concerned. It is the 49ers down there. I'm less concerned about McCaffrey, I have to say. I think they're going to lean on him a lot this week, but it is Debo there that I'm concerned about. We've seen since McCaffrey got traded that he's taken a real step back in terms of overall production. So yeah, that's it. That does not bode well for me, especially playing Tampa, and especially if Tampa rack up the score quite early. But then again, they are flying across the country. But you know what? Brady's got some. I saw some stat the other day that he's against rookie QBs. He absolutely owns them in their first start. So he's got no chill. And then the Ravens playing Pittsburgh. Well, so Pittsburgh have been very up and down on offense this year. And the Ravens, to their credit, have been extremely solid. And we all know what Justin Tucker can do as well. He's as good as in fact, better than certain skill positions. So this has got a real decent fight amongst it, I have to say. But Mike's in excellent form going into this. I think the players that he's got are in good form. I think they've got matchups that are worthwhile. Whilst with Ben, I don't see that quite as much this week. My question marks over Mahomes, the two 49ers there, and Amari Cooper are enough to put me off. So I'm going for Mike. Number one into the playoffs. Nafwani rule, everything that goes with it. At long last, we'll make the playoffs. as the number 1 seed.
Yeah, and Mike was quite happy to making the playoffs, not in kind of a close way or with loads of gypsy wins. He hasn't had the points as much scored on him. He has kind of taken over Nige in that respect. That it's funny because he was obviously Nige's direct replacement, so that slot in the league seems to have the fear factor, as Nige used to call it. But you absolutely can only play what's in front of you, and regardless of what points have been scored on Mike, his team has obviously been very good and deserving of where it is as well. I tend to agree. I think it's Mike for me this week as well. We've seen, I think, for a few weeks now with Ben's team, when he comes up against this really strong opposition, his team just does not have the same upside that other teams do. It's a very solid, consistent team, and that is absolutely a good way to punch your ticket to the playoffs. But it's obviously a tougher way to be able to win the league itself, because when you get to this end of the year, that is when you face the teams that do have that upside. Like you say, there's some tough matchups in there for him, as well. There's some injury woes with Amari Cooper, and obviously offensive woes in that regard as well. I'm less concerned with Mahomes against Denver, just because it's those divisional games. The divisional games, you almost have to throw the playbook out a little bit, because weird things just do happen. But like you said, they are a stout defense. Whereas, as you say, for Mike's team, a lot of players in form right now, in the right direction. DeAndre Swift has played his way back into Mike's lineup, essentially, because obviously he's been coming on of late as well. So yeah, no, I don't like the Steelers stream, though, for me personally. I know it's Tyler Huntley, and I know the Ravens haven't looked brilliant, but the Steelers D has also not been brilliant. TJ Watt has not been very effective since coming back from his pec injury. He's dealing with a rib injury of his own now as well, so that's the only thing I don't like there. But yeah, especially when you've got the Bucks playing Brock Purdy. I would be rolling the dice if I were Mike. I don't know what you think, Chris.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one. That's it. You just don't know what's going to come up, but you would like to think that defense is going to smell blood. I know it's away from home and things get weird when that kind of thing happens, but yeah, I'd rather play a defense against a quarterback that's immobile rather than one that moves.
Yeah, yeah, indeed, yeah. So just to chalk off the injuries then for this one, so Saquon Barkley, he is a worry for Mike, as I've seen. He is effectively a true game time decision with his neck injury, but at least he's in the 6 p.m. window, so he'll have plenty of time to pivot, and he's got a couple of healthy options there on the bench. On Ben's side, so yeah, you mentioned about Amari Cooper's hip injury, popped up midweek on Thursday with that, so seemingly injured it during practice, did not practice Friday. So it looks like he will play. Again, he's a bit of a game time decision, but is expected to play. But you never know with that kind of thing if the guy's just out there as a decoy or not. So one to monitor. I think Zay Jones is still dealing with his chest injury, but he's going to play. He played through it last week as well. So that's everything there. And the projections. I didn't mention the projections in the preview either. Excuse me. Mike is projected to win this one 97-94. Obviously, you can see there with the 17 points happily already on the board from Josh Jacobs as well. We'll go on to the next game then. So we're going into the Portsmouth division next for the Dream Team against the Detonators. The Dream Team take on the Detonators here. The Dream Team just needs to score points, and they may do so at the expense of the Detonators in order to get that points forward wildcard, because if the Detonators loses and doesn't outscore Gridiron Gang, that will be their route to the playoffs. If they do win and Gridiron Gang lose, or they win and Gridiron Gang win and score 36 less than they do, they will take the division themselves. The projections have this one going, but Detonators' way at the moment, 101, so 91 over the 3-game win streak, the Dream Team side. But Detonators already have 12 points on the board, courtesy of Daniel Carlson as well from the Thursday night game. Looking down the lineups, Geno Smith comes in over Justin Fields, who goes on to bye. DeAndre Hopkins comes back in from bye. And as does Deontay Foreman, he comes into the starting lineup, and that drops Travis Etienne and Chris Olave to the bench. So the Detonators is going with the 30 personnel this week, 3 running backs and 2 wide receivers. On the other side of the board for the Dream Team, DJ Moore comes into the starting lineup, as does Jerry Jeudy, dropping, let's see here, Gus Edwards and Zonovan Knight to the bench. So the Dream Team is rolling out the 10 personnel, as they have done frequently this year, spreading it out with the 1 running back and the 4 wide receivers. The history of this matchup all time, the Detonators are 7-11 all time against the Dream Team. Oh boy, this is a juicy matchup here, Chris, and it's kind of sad that one of these teams is going to go home, because the Dream Team obviously had their injury woes, but they've definitely come on of late, and I don't know. Could they pull an upset over here against Aberdeen?
We've got all sorts of matchups in here. I mean, you have to look at the games which are going to have a lot of offense first. So let's do that. The Buffalo New York Jets game is so interesting to me because the Jets have just come up from they've changed their strategy throughout the year. They've gone from a heavily running team to a heavily passing team in the string of one or 2 weeks. It's pretty mad. Now Mike White looks completely legit. That's
a large reason for that.
That. So, as those that watched him and played him last season, that's it. Yeah, we'll know. But he was lights out in his first start and was extremely good last week as well. So you have to look at that and think to yourself, right? Well, yes, Stephon Diggs. You're going to see the kind of production that you would expect to see from him week on week. But that Bills D against the Jets. Now I know they're playing at home. I know that the Jets have historically not been pretty good streamers, but we've seen what defenses have done on the other side. Is where I'm coming to on this one because the Jets looked all right last week and the Bills haven't looked like lights out, unbelievable on defense.
They've lost Von Miller for the season as well.
It's a big loss. But the Cowboys, who've got all of their talent and they're playing at home and they're playing Houston, who've just been beaten up over the last few weeks. I mean, that could be a crazy score. A crazy score. When we saw what Cleveland did to them last week, the Cowboys at home, I mean, it could be an absolute demolition job. The game between KC and Denver, I know it's the division game, but again, you can't like Denver's offense. Jerry Jeudy's he's going to be the number one receiver clearly in that, but I mean, it doesn't make that much difference. I've been the Cortland Sutton owner all year.
Yeah,
I can do that. Pollard against Houston again. That's it. Should be fantastic, but you just don't know how much Zeke's going to factor into that. DJ Moore in Seattle, weird game that one there. I think you just don't really know.
Seemingly rejuvenated with Sam Darnold. Seattle's not the best defense around, but you just never know, do you? With
Seattle's a weird place to go, especially this time of the year with that crowd. They've got something to play for as well. Well, Carolina do. Both teams have, but you see, can you really trust him? And then Chase and Burrow in the same game against Cleveland, and you expect to see a lot of offense there. Obviously, that's that interstate grudge match. So, does that though? To me, beat out Geno Hopkins against New England, which it's playing at home. You've definitely got a bit more of a opportunity there.
Bill will look to erase. We know what Bill likes to do. He likes to take away an offense's top weapon and kind of make them beat you left-handed. So that seemed to be the course here because I think the Cardinals could have success going elsewhere. So I think they'd happily, have a lot of attention divert Hopkins away so they can do other things on the sides. So.
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot of yards on the ground in that game for both teams. But it's here. It's the middle bit. It's Lamb and Henry. Henry's playing Jacksonville, and anyone who's watched Derrick Henry play Jacksonville over the last 4 seasons will know that he has his best game against Jacksonville at home every year.
In December particularly as well.
Yeah, no matter what time of the year, but particularly now. Now, the game script is going to be absolutely through him because, the weapons going forward. Trenton Burks went down last week. He's not playing this week. Tannehill's got a dodgy ankle. That's it. Derrick Henry is going to be absolutely lights out in this game. And Dante Foreman, well, that's it. Again, I think as pickups go, waiver wire pickups go, yes, I know he's had a couple of bad games in the last 5.
He's been great, yeah.
But he otherwise he has been great. So coming off the bye as well. And again, if you can't trust the quarterback, well, you're going to go for a running back, and he's punchy. So Pacheco against Denver again. I think that they'll try and smother that offense as much as they can. So this is going to be very, very tight, but I can't look past the fact that Derrick Henry could score 40 points this week. Just could. And the Cowboys D is excellent, and Lamb's good. It's going to be a bit of a weird scoring week for Ollie, I think, but I think he's got enough to get through it. Whilst Viv, he's going to have to hope and pray that that things kind of go his way a bit more. But I want to see what Ollie's team's capable of in matchups which have no ceiling.
Yeah, no, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, like you say, Ollie's team has been a bit more on shakier ground of late. He obviously went on that massively good run. As you say, it's for one reason or other, it's not quite lined up the same. But like you say, potentially has that capability in them going down the stretch if they do get into the playoffs. I'm really torn on this one because I think there's some really, really good things about the detonators, like you say, with I think Geno Smith against Carolina, that's good. Dante Foreman against Seattle as well, that's good. And then the Cowboys did against Houston, that's obviously dreamland matchup. But then the other guys there, I just have no idea what you're going to get, because we already spoke about Hopkins. He could easily get erased. I don't know how much Dallas is going to need to pass against Houston. They could feasibly be yanking their guys at the start of the third quarter in that one too. So unless he does the damage on the way, which he obviously could well do, it could be a quiet day for him. While Henry, like you say, historically is absolutely mowed through Jacksonville, and this time he's great. He has been really inefficient the last few weeks. He's 29 now. Let's not forget that we're nearing 29. And as you say, the other parts of the Titans' offense aren't quite firing. I think I heard they only have 2 healthy receivers at the moment. The Titans do. As you say, Tannehill was playing on a bit of a bum ankle as well. I don't know. Something feels a bit weird about it to me. Jacksonville aren't these Jacksonville Jaguars of seasons past where they're a complete joke. They're by no way, I don't think you would say a good team. They are bang average, but they're one of those average teams that can have a great day one day and basically be Jekyll and Hyde. So, I don't know. He could absolutely blow up for 40 points. That wouldn't surprise me at all. If he only went for 4 points, to be quite honest, that wouldn't surprise me at all either. So that's a real tricky one there. And then Pacheco against Denver, I don't know what you're going to get in that game. I know Pacheco's taken over the running game, but this profiles as a game where KC are going to go through the air because the Denver defense is pretty stout. And then Viv's team, I think he's kind of a more, like you say, middle of the road team. He's got like the likes of Burrow, Diggs, Chase, who should have a decent day. Pollard obviously could be a real beneficiary of that matchup. But then, like you say, DJ Moore, Judy, don't know what you're going to get. Bills D. At home, I think the Bills are going to have a point to prove against the Jets after they lost that game in the Meadowlands the first time round. I kind of want to pick Viv, but I'm not going to, just because the juicy parts of the Detonators team this week are so juicy, and I can't see all of the guys I just mentioned having bad days together, so I think that they should have it enough to bring the win home there. Injury-wise for this one, I think both teams have a completely clean bill of health. Which is not something you say in week 14. And indeed, J.K. Dobbins, I think, is back he's been activated for the Dream Team there as well. So probably not going to wheel them out this week, though, obviously. Just first game back from injury. We'll go on to the next game then, which we dip into the Winchester Division for. Both these teams playing for play in the Winchester Division, in the Winchester Bowl no less, with Tom Sirens against UR Gold. Both their seasons are over, unfortunately for them, but they can still play for bragging rights right here in week 14, and they're projected to go the way of UR Gold at the moment, 79-69, but we'll see. Tom Sirens hasn't completely updated their team yet, so that could change, but we'll look down the lineups all the same. So for UR Gold, I think Tyler Boyd and TJ Hawkinson come into the lineup, as does Michael Carter, dropping Aaron Jones, Michael Pittman, and I think probably someone they've already since dropped as well. So they are going with the 21 personnel this week. 31 personnel, 3 running backs, very heavy set, a tight end and a wide receiver. On the other side of the board for Tom Sirens, obviously unchanged since last week at the moment. They do have Jonathan Taylor in there, so presumably they'll be bringing in, I would guess, either Raheem Mostert or Marquise Hollywood Brown. The history of this matchup all time. So UR Gold are it's a level series at 5-5, so a lot of bragging rights on the line in this one, Chris. Who's going to be the champion of Winchester?
Yeah, I think I'll probably caveat this by saying that anyone who's not really in playoff contention, I'm not going to go quite as deep into your team.
I think that's understandable.
As apart from you. So, yeah, I mean, Tom Scott...
I would caution that they probably don't care that much themselves.
Probably not. Yeah, Tom's got Jonathan Taylor out this week, so already he's on the back foot. That San Francisco game, again, it all hinges on that. Do I believe that Brady going across the country to play, in the place that he so wanted to play as a child, and not do well? I'm not sure that's the case. I think he'll want to put on a show there. Ayuk in the same game, again, with the quarterback the way it is, not so clever. Pickens against Baltimore with that defense, it's just not a real lot to like, I have to say, with Tom's team this week. And even if you bring Marquise Brown back in, or Robinson or Mostert, it's not massively exciting. Though the Chiefs D down there might be a bit more exciting. Bring him in.
Yeah, I don't know why you wouldn't stream against the Denver.
That's exactly that. But it's Seahawks D versus Carolina. I mean, it's playing at home.
It's okay. Yeah.
Boss, your goal again is not the most exciting either. I mean, I'd say I like the fact that Cook and Williams are in there. I like the fact that Hawkinson's playing Detroit. I like the fact that Goff's playing Minnesota at home. He's done well last week. Tyler Boyd's been all right this year. The Jets playing Buffalo, don't like that. But you know what? Who cares? Because there's nothing on the line. So look, your goal, I think, will probably win this game. I think that. I think that Tom, provided that Brady and Evans have a good day, will have a chance. But aside from that, there's not really a great deal to like in there.
No, yeah, I agree. I think Tom's kind of a full complement of players outside of Jonathan Taylor, but the players he has mostly have arse matchups, or they have the likes of backup quarterbacks throwing to them. So it's firmly your gold for me this week as well. Depending what happens elsewhere, I may well lock your gold just because Tom could have an absolute floor week here. Your gold probably not going to have a great week themselves, but it's easy to see them having a better day. So yes, we will move swiftly on to another game, which unfortunately does not have any implications for playoffs, but it at least does feature a playoff team in Pakistan versus Gears of War. With a 3-game win streak and a bye in the bag, Pakistan's just playing to get to a 500 record at this point as they face off against Gears of War, whose season is over. This is the Goose Bowl, ladies and gentlemen, and Pakistan is projected to take the Goose home with them, 94 to 78 points. Looking down the lineups for Pakistan, let's see here. I think Garrett Wilson comes into the lineup, dropping Cordarrelle Patterson to the bench as he goes on to bye. So Pakistan featuring the 10 personnel this week, 1 running back and 4 wide receivers, just spreading it out there. On the other side of the board for Gears of War, let's see. I think there are some changes. I can't exactly remember who Ross played last week. I think David Montgomery was in, so he drops to the bench. That may well be the only change, so I think Hunter Henry comes in. So he is featuring the 12 personnel this week, 1 running back, 2 tight ends. The history of this matchup all time. Let's see here. Pakistan they are 4-5 all time against Ross's team, so they could level up here too. There are some points on the board as well. It's 18-0 at the moment by way of Devontae Adams with 7 in the Raiders D with 11 points there. Will Pat get to 500, Chris? That is the question on everyone's minds.
Yes. That is quite clear. Dak's gonna have a good day, as you say. It could be a curtailed day because I think they're going to put a hell of a lot of points on Houston, and they're not going to want to risk Dak through a playoff run because that's where they're going. Andrews has got a second-string QB. Metcalf's banged up. Murray's in a poor offense, so he's scoring touchdowns, but still a poor offense. Hunter Henry, why? And Gabe Davis, well, say he's had some boom and bust days, and so it seems to be they rely on the end zone, but at the same time, I don't like it. You just can't rely on a guy like that.
No, he's the ultimate boom bust player. He'll win you a week if it comes off, but he'll probably be part of the reason you lose it if he doesn't.
Exactly that. Whilst Pat's coming off a near enough 120-point week with the same guys on the other side. Yes, Devontae Adams hasn't got 30 this week. But Justin Herbert's going to be in a game which is going to have plenty of offense, as is Justin Jefferson, as is Zeke. Devontae Smith's in a divisional ding-dong, and see it with the Giants. And Garrett Wilson's looked every bit the wide receiver one that they drafted him for. So, that's it. I think this should be a bit of a clean sweep for Pat. Congratulations on your 500 record. Carry on to the playoffs as the form team.
Yeah, I'm locking Pat this week, so I feel more confident about this one than you are, goal, because as you say, Ross's team is on fumes at this point. Pat's team while not maybe completely at full strength, but looking pretty damn good. Obviously, as you say, Adams. Can we just say about what the hell were the Raiders doing on Thursday night?
I have no idea.
How do they lose that game? How does Devontae Adams only come out of that with 71 yards? Just ridiculous. But anyway, it shouldn't matter for Pat because he's got good players. He's got some juicy matchups as well, as you say. We don't really need to go much more into it than that. You're obviously going with Pat with this pick as well. So injury-wise for this one, so I think other than Jacoby Myers being ruled out already with a concussion, it's a clean bill of health for Pat. DK Metcalf, he's questionable. He popped up on the injury report this week, but he is expected to play. No other injuries there. I will just circle back through the last games. I think I skipped over the injuries, of which only Brandon Cooks has been ruled out. Other than that, it's a clean bill of health, and I think I covered off the injuries in the Dream Team. Yeah, there weren't any anyway. So we'll go on to the next game, which features the Podcast Bowl for the last time in 2022. It's the Podcast Bowl, Gridiron Gang against Fudge Flyers. It's also a Founders Bowl as well, of course. As Gridiron Gang could potentially win the division. They could also seal their ticket to the playoffs this week by the way of the points forward wildcard with a good showing. Meanwhile, Fudge Flyers looking for that holy grail of getting to the 500 record, which would probably be quite a number in a row for you now, Chris. I'm not sure what the number is, but it's got to be a good one. You are carrying a 5-game losing streak, so form is not on your side, but can you turn it around here? Projections say you won't. 89 to 76, but there's more underneath the skin of this game, I think. So if we take a look down the lineups, so for Gridiron Gang, Adam Thielen from the waiver wire comes into the starting lineup. At the moment, Donovan Peoples-Jones and Rashad White in the starting lineups as well. And Joe Mixon comes back in, of course. So all change for Gridiron Gang this week. 4 players dropping Samaje Perine to the bench. Terry McLaurin and Brian Robinson, who are now on bye, and Kenneth Walker as well, who is not slated to play. So Gridiron Gang rolling with the the 21 personnel this week. 2 running backs, a tight end, 2 receivers. On your side of the board, Chris, we both probably have made more changes than the rest of the league combined to their lineups this week, because Kyler Murray comes back in for you off of his bye, with Trevor Lawrence going to the waiver wire accordingly. And you also have Corey Davis in your lineup. You have brought Michael Gallup into your lineup from free agency, or the waiver, DJ Tark from free agency into your starting lineup as well. Dropping Kareem Hunt to the bench, having Kamara on bye. And I think you've Cortland Sutton would be the other guy you've dropped out as well, who's obviously injured and missing this game with a hamstring as well. So you are going with the 10 personnel this week, 1 running back, 4 wide receivers. Spread personnel being quite popular this week in the LOC. The history of this matchup all time, Chris, you are 11-10 against me all time. This is just going to be the ultimate streamathon, really, isn't it, Chris?
Fun. That's it. Yeah. Just you know what? That's it. We're just gonna go for it this week. There's not really a great deal else to add apart from the fact that my team is very piecemeal. I'm playing the percentages. I'm playing guys that I want to do well. I'm playing guys in teams that I'm looking at to do well. The Dallas, the Jets, Miami, etc., etc. So yeah, Detroit. The only way I'm going to have any sort of hope in this, I think, is that if Murray can anchor the team, Waddle comes back and performs, one of those 2 guys, Gallup and Chubb, score a touchdown, and Chubb actually turns up and be the guy that we saw for the first 8 weeks. Cardinals D might do something as well. I mean, they are playing New England at home. New England haven't been great offensively, especially quarterback. So yeah, we're looking good on that one. And Bash is kicking in the dome, so it's good for December. With your team, look, you're going to be in a bit of a track meet with Allen against the Jets, I think. Weird one for Kelsey again against Denver. He could well go. This is one of those games which he could go for 3 touchdowns and 20 yards again. That's it. Feeling against Detroit again, lot of offense. Mixon's just the volume hero, isn't he? In that, Peoples-Jones in the same game, so it looked much better with a different QB last week, and Rashad White against San Francisco. Tough matchup. But similarly, that's it. You are in a Tom Brady offense. Who knows where you might end up getting to if you just got to run it in from 1 yard, and so be it. And the Eagles versus the Giants, well, that defense should be lights out this week as well. So there's no doubt that you are in the driving seat for this game, Nate. You should easily overcome my team, which has been absolutely garbage through for the last 5 weeks. Was all right for 7 weeks. Has not been very good for the last 7 or 8 weeks. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to seeing this one play out. Yeah, that's it, because there is no pressure on me really. But yes, I can be a bit of a bit of a disruptor, shall we say?
Yeah, completely. No, I'm actually going to pick your team for that exact reason because I'm picking your team because I think when the pressure is off and you can have fun with these streams, and we often see, fortune favours the bold in fantasy, and I would be doing probably a very similar thing to you if I wasn't so bound by my bye week issues. I've since dropped Alan Lazard to bring Travis Homer on board because, like you say, there's some things in my lineup like DPJ and Rashad White that I'm not overly keen on. A lot's going to hinge on if Kenneth Walker goes or doesn't, so expect to get a message into the committee chat with some weird and wonderful if this or that happens to get Travis Homer into my lineup. Because as you say, for me, I see it being as more about the key guys. If Allen, Kelsey, Mixon perform, and then to a lesser extent the Eagles D, like you say, I think I should probably win this one, but the Jets are a tough matchup. Like I said, the Bills are going to be wanting to a point to prove after they lost to the Jets earlier in the season, but the Jets are no slouch, and obviously the Bills offense, since Allen hurt his elbow in said game, haven't been quite the same. You already mentioned about Kelsey being the tough matchup. Mixon has a good matchup against Cleveland, but I don't know, what do we see with Samaje Perine performing so well? Is that going to be more of a split backfield? Who knows? I didn't want to particularly drop Perine just to see that myself, to obviously pick up Travis Homer to cover myself there, and then whatever I get from the other guys, who knows? And on your side of the board, like you say, you've kind of gone for the fun matchups, but a lot of the guys you've plugged in or picked up are the guys that I was kind of eyeing as well. I obviously had Michael Gallup earlier in the week, but decided to go with Adam Thielen over that, so obviously on the same wavelength there. DJ Chark was another guy that I was seriously considering in the same vein. Jalen Waddle obviously had the quiet week last week, but that game figures to be a track meet. Corey Davis has been getting a lot of targets there, obviously with Mike White playing well. Kyler Murray, you never know what you're going to get with him, but he always seems to have a stable floor if nothing else. And like you say, Cardinals playing New England. So I don't know, I could see a good week for you. And then let's not forget Nick Chubb as well, where we saw obviously Deshaun Watson not do so great in his first game back, but maybe they get things a bit more settled this week and Chubb returns to some good form. So, like you say, you could be a disruptor. You can certainly affect definitely what happens in terms of who wins the division potentially. Because my mission this week is to score points. Obviously, it would be quite astounding. We've seen crazier things. I would need to be outscored by 95 points, specifically by my dad. Obviously, depending on the other teams, it would have to be more. So it's quite likely I've got that points forward wildcard, but you never know. You absolutely never know. So, I'm just going to go with you this week because weird things happen when we get this close to the playoffs. And then we've got one more game of the week then, which again features two playoff hopefuls in Napolitans against Bare Necessities. It's the Dave Bowl here in Week 14, and these teams, really it doesn't matter who wins or loses, because they just need to rack up the points and hope one of Gridiron Gang or Bedetonators do not rack up any points to try and get that points forward wildcard. For what it's worth, Bare Necessities does have an 8-5 record, and Napolitans are 6-7-1. Napolitans are projected to win this one 99-88. So let's take a look down the lineups for Napolitans. Let's see here. They are unchanged, I believe, so they are still rolling out the 20 personnel, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers. Meanwhile, for Bare Necessities, they are rolling out the 30 personnel, 3 running backs, 2 wide receivers as well. I don't think there's any changes made to my dad's team other than Daniel Jones coming in for the obviously injured Lamar Jackson. The history of this matchup all time, Bare Necessities are at a level series. It's 1-1 in the Dave Bowl. So, Chris, can either of these teams put up enough points to potentially steal the points forward wildcard away from one of Bedetonators or Gridiron Gang?
No. Listen, they each score 150 points each to even make it close, and that ain't happening. So yeah, this is my hot take. This is a dead rubber. Nobody should care about this game.
Ooh.
Apart from the people that are involved in it. This is gone. I think that the points forward playoff berth is going to either one of yourself or Ollie. There is no way that I can see that either of these teams getting in via that door. So there you go. That's it. That's one way to start. But if it's going to be one of them, it's going to be the Napolitans because they got some real big hitters this week. We see Hurts, we see Hill, we see Higgins, we see Stevenson, we see Kirk, maybe a little bit of Harris. We see the Titans D. So yeah, look, that's where it's at. Mac on the other side, bare necessities. Any team that starts Daniel Jones in its pursuit of 150 points.
There's got to be a better quarterback streamer out there. I'm gonna bring it up now because I know.
Somebody to start Deshaun Watson. Just somebody do it. You know what? At this point in the year, who cares?
Yeah, you've got Deshaun Watson, Trevor Lawrence, who obviously has that toe injury, but should play. I mean, Christ, even Mac Jones or something, really, yeah. Daniel Jones, come on.
Listen, Daniel Jones is there. Somebody start Mike White. Somebody.
Yes, Mike White. Buffalo is not, as you said earlier.
You do that, man. Yeah. I don't care. At this point, I'm just like, yeah, that might even be a thing I do later on, just to say fuck it. But you know what? That there is no way on God's green earth that team is going to score the points that it needs. But I still think that Godwin and AJ Brown and Eckler will have a good day. I think Singletary, especially if the weather's not unbelievable in Buffalo, will still be a factor. But as you say, Cook's a factor there as well. And the 49ers did against Tampa. Well, might get a few sacks, but I just don't see it, man. So look, that's it. Solid seasons for these two guys, but unfortunately outpaced by teams that are just simply better than them.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, I don't think I need to add anything on here. Napolitans should win this one. Obviously, they're pretty much at full strength. The matchup-wise, they're looking okay as well. So, and yeah, my dad's team has just been on that steady decline. Still has some nice aspects to it, but as you say, hasn't really got the same firepower, so shouldn't be winning this one either. Injury-wise in this one as well, so Fournette's questionable he popped up with a foot injury on Thursday, did not practice Friday, but is expected to play. Obviously, Jackson will not play this week, despite being listed as doubtful. No injuries there for Dave's team, and then just pivoting back to this one, our game as well, just Kenneth Walker questionable with that jammed ankle injury that's been really questionable for this one. So that is it. That is week 14 preview. Next time we talk to you, it will be playoffs time. We'll obviously have the wildcard bowl next week, and we'll obviously know which teams make the playoffs. If you would like to see the final week 14 madness ensue, you're welcome to come over and watch it at mine. Pat's going to come over and watch it, so we'll at least have one extra guest. So all that's left to say is thank you for joining us once again, Chris.
You're welcome.
Yeah, you fans, you better enjoy Chris while it lasts, because he won't be on the final couple of pods of the season, but he's here for another week, at least probably before we get to that. Anyway, so yeah, enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Hope you've had a good weekend. Best of luck in your matchups, unless you're playing me, of course. Goodbye.